Can I welcome you to this penultimate of our studies in the book of Ruth. And today we're looking at chapter 4 verses 1 to 17. And with these verses the book of Ruth reaches something of a climax. Once again the sensitive reader is expected to discern for himself or herself the lessons which lie hidden in the story. And there are several remarkable contrasts in this chapter. First, there is a contrast between Boaz and the other unnamed kinsman redeemer. The nameless man was only willing to act on behalf of Naomi and Ruth if it were to his own advantage. This decided the matter for him, as we see in verse 6. But doubtless the same obstacle lay in Boaz's way as well. However, Boaz was ready to follow the path of obedience to God, whatever the consequences. Too often, of course, we only do what is right because it suits us, and we need to learn from Boaz. Once again, we notice that Boaz was motivated by mercy, as one who had received mercy, and we might look back again to chapter 2, verse 13. At this point, however, the author of Ruth plays a subtle joke on his readers. He must have known the name of the kinsman. After all, he knew a great deal about Elimelech and his relatives. However, he does not reveal the name. And surely he does not reveal it quite deliberately. The unnamed kinsman acted to secure his name, but it's long since been lost. Boaz risked the loss of his name, but he's not only named, but his fame will live on until the end of the world. Jesus taught the same truth. It is the great message of the book of Ruth. To hold fast to our own ambitions will lead to the loss of all. Faithful obedience to God will enable us to inherit eternal life, a lasting inheritance, and an honourable name before God. You might refer to Matthew chapter 10 verse 39, Mark 8:35, Luke 9:24 and John 12 verse 25 to reflect upon Jesus' own teaching. And this same point is made by another contrast in this chapter. In chapter 1, Naomi was described as bereaved and hopeless. Just look back at chapter 1 verse 5, 12 and 20. In chapter 4, she has comfort in her old age, made sure by the birth of a grandson, which comes at the end of our present passage. In her own experience, Naomi had to learn the lesson of obedience. She also learned that God is merciful to the person who turns back from a path of folly. Finally, she learned that God was far more merciful to her than she deserved. And the final contrast in this section is seen in Ruth herself. In chapter 1, she was a friendless, penniless and childless stranger. However, she put her faith in the God of Israel. In chapter 4, the same Ruth has not only become the object of the Levite's attention, as we saw in chapter 3, but is his wife. She is the centre of an admiring community, the mother of a son. And to have a son was a blessing indeed in the ancient world, as it is in many places today. Thus Ruth found that her sacrifice was rewarded by God. God is never anyone's debtor. As we follow him, we will learn the same lessons.